To our channel. Now we are going to start our neuromuscular junction and its transmission. So not only biceps muscle, any kind of muscle is mainly connected to our central nervous system by means of a motor neuron. So we have mainly two types of neurons. One is the motor neuron and the other one is a sensory neuron. So the sensory neuron actually pick up the sensation from our body. For example, from this hand, now if I'm touching this book, so this sensation is now getting by into my brain. Now as soon as just now I touch the book, that information is going by means of long myelinated neurons. Mainly because of myelination, the conduction speed increases, so that is a sensory neuron. And now I touch and that I got that sensation by means of motor neuron, that I have touched the book. So this is like a system of motor and sensory neurons working, and they are connected to central nervous system mainly by motor neuron. So not only biceps muscle, any muscle is connected in such a way. So that we have some thing known as motor end plate is a neuronal end at the muscle. So actually if we check out the diagram, we can clearly understand this. So here if you check out this diagram, you can see the motor end plate. This is a motor end plate. You can see this is mentioned as subneural clefts. So these subneural clefts are mainly present on the motor end plate. Motor end plate is nothing but known as a membrane of a muscle. That is a motor end plate. And you can see this is a nerve. This nerve is having, you can see the axon terminal in the synaptic cleft. This is called as synaptic cleft, and these are the inside you can see some vesicles, synaptic vesicles, and there is also numerous mitochondria present over here. You can see clearly in this diagram. So now let us convert into our discussion, and if diagrams are necessary in middle, I'll show like this. So you can see the information mainly from the nerve comes as an electrical signal, and that is converted into chemical signal, and later again converts into electrical in the motor end plate, and this process is known as neuromuscular transmission. That is also neuromuscular junction. So you can understand this concept here clearly. The nerve comes with signal in the form of electrical signals, because action potential travels along the nerve by means of electrical signal. So now this electrical signal at this synaptic cleft is a place between the junction between the neuron and the muscle is called as synaptic cleft. So the signal comes here in the form of electrical impulse, and here it is converted into a chemical substance like acetylcholine, etc., and it is released here, and again it is picked up inside, and inside again it is converted into an electrical signal. That is again it is converting into an action potential. So this is what electrical, chemical, again into electrical. So always remember to travel a signal along the nerve fiber is electrical, and from one neuron to other it is also by chemical signal bypassing, and from one neuron to muscle also by chemical substance such as acetylcholine. So this is the neuromuscular junction. So now let us talk that how motor neurons are talking to the muscle. That is how one neuron talks to a muscle. So mainly by the process of synapse. Synapse is nothing but that is a meeting of the two cells where the info from one cell is transferred to the other. So here the synapse between the neuronal and muscular cell, which is the chemical synapse. So mainly the chemical synapse like acetylcholine, all those chemical substances. So we have mainly the pre and post synaptic membrane. So you can check out here actually. So this is the presynaptic membrane and this is a postsynaptic membrane now. So the presynaptic membrane mainly releases, that is it releases some vesicles with acetylcholine or either chemical substance. So that is nothing but it is talking with our muscle. So the muscle is a postsynaptic membrane and it is a receptor which listens to this presynaptic membrane. So this is only one way transmission, that is you can see from neuron to muscle, but not from muscle to neuron, not like that. Only one way transmission, that is transmission coming from the neuron entering into the muscle. So it is a one way transmission. So this is like we can say that now the neurons are talking with the muscles and muscles are listening that conversation. So the one way transmission, and the chemical substance here is mainly acetylcholine, and these vesicles are mainly loaded with acetylcholine. You can see here, we'll zoom in to check out this vesicles, this yellow one. See, these are the vesicles, and these vesicles are mainly loaded with the acetylcholine inside them. So now let us understand this process. The vesicles are loaded with acetylcholine and they are synthesized mainly in the cell body by the messenger RNA. So this is the nerve ending. Before this is a nerve ending. So here we have the cell body, right? So from cell body all this are synthesized. Mainly the proteins are synthesized in the nuclear granules of a cell body, and by axoplasm they come down and they are ending at the nerve terminal. So this is a complete one-way process. So now the messenger RNA is formed by DNA transcription. So by this process now the nerve ending has no nucleus, so all the proteins are synthesized in the nerve in the cell body and transported to the nerve endings. So the nerve endings mainly synthesize the small molecules and the acetylcholine. Remember that nerve ending can also produce some proteins. Those are formed by this nerve ending. They can synthesize their own proteins, only but small proteins. So this nerve endings synthesize small molecules and acetylcholine, and the choline is absorbed from the GIT. You know, in GIT there is lot of choline, so from GIT the choline enters into circulating system, and next from the circulating system into a vesicle here nerve ending. So the choline is absorbed from the GIT and they are transported mainly from the extracellular area, because this extracellular area, into the nerve ending and produce the acetyl CoA. So actually it is transported to the nerve ending membrane. And you know, mitochondria, there are numerous mitochondria over here. These mitochondria mainly produce our acetyl CoA. So now what happens, this acetyl CoA, which is produced by the mitochondria, and the choline, which is coming from the extracellular, both fuse together and form acetylcholine. So now this acetylcholine is mainly formed by help of enzyme called as acetylcholine transferase enzyme. So this is very important. You can understand the choline is coming from the GIT into a nerve ending, and mitochondria from producing the acetyl CoA. So now this acetyl CoA along with this choline are fused together by means of help of an enzyme called acetylcholine transferase, and they are forming finally they are forming the acetylcholine. Now this is transported into the vesicle, and the calcium is more in the extracellular area, and due to the depolarization, calcium enters now into the cell. Here we also have some calcium channels. So here we have some calcium channels actually. So because of this depolarization going on in our nerve, even this enters into a nerve terminal. So this depolarization current moves the calcium into the cell. So the calcium now enters into the cell. So now as the calcium is entering into the cell, and there are sensitive protein inside the nerve membrane and also vesicle membrane. So for example, this is a vesicle membrane and this is a nerve ending membrane, right? So because of calcium influx into the cell, now these membranes are also having some change in them, and also the nerve membrane is also showing some change because they are having sensitive channels for calcium. So as a result of calcium, these calcium proteins ripple, and the vesicular membranes can fuse with the nerve ending membrane and dissolve the membrane and finally release the acetylcholine. So now as this is having calcium, it has some receptor like this, and it is also having, so now they both fuse together, and because of this fusing, now they go undergo the process of exocytosis, that is the contents now get out from the nerve ending. So mainly on this vesicular membrane we are having a protein that is called as synaptobravin, and here we have the synataxins. So on the nervous membrane, so these are the calcium dependent protein help in binding of vesicles to the nerve membrane. So mainly by the simple diffusion process, now the acetylcholine transferase from the presynaptic membrane, that is from the nerve membrane, to the postsynaptic membrane, that is a muscle membrane. So now it easily transfers to the muscle membrane, and the gap between these two is nothing but called as synaptic cleft. So we have some now let us move on to the here discussion. So you can see we have some T delta, 2 alpha, beta, gamma. All these are forming mainly pentameric protein, which are present in the postsynaptic membrane, that is on the muscle membrane. So they are ligand gated channels, and they open when the acetylcholine attaches to them. Remember that at least two acetylcholine should attach to that ligand gated channel, so that it allows the movement of cations. Sodium goes into the cell, and some of the potassium also leaks out from the cell. So these channels are also opened mainly by the nicotine. So these are called as nicotinic cholinergic receptors, and these are mainly having the heavy influx of sodium. So the RMP now, you know, normally the resting membrane potential in a muscle is about -80. So now this is not an action potential, but this is a local potential. So because of local potential, now this -80 just moves on to 0, but not a positive charge. Always remember, a local potential can convert the resting membrane potential, that is a negative charge, only to 0, but it can't make it positive. Only the voltage gated sodium channels, that is which are producing the action potential, only those can bring the channel up to positivity. So you can only it is 0 due to the less outflux of potassium, and this is mainly known as motor end plate potential, or also called as local potential of the muscle. So this is very important. This is the local potential of the muscle. So there is also miniature end plate potential, that is about -0.4, not minus 0.4. It is mainly due to the very few production of acetylcholine or membrane proteins. So it's not the action potential because it is not due to the voltage gated sodium channels, and it is due to mainly the ligand gated channels. And the membranes which are present on the sides of the postsynaptic membrane, Now their RMP is converted into threshold, because I can understand because of this local potential there is lot of sodium inside the cell. Now this triggers the threshold and now it is converted into RMP. So now voltage gated sodium channels open and the depolarization current sweeps all over the membrane. So it occurs. Now the sodium influx takes place and continue depolarization wave to all the muscle membrane, and later the repolarization occurs. So that is how the action potential is formed by a threshold which is stimulated by a local potential. So special types of enzymes are present in a neural muscular junction in the motor end planes and also an extracellular matrix. This limit or catalyze the potential mainly by dividing the acetylcholine into acetate and choline. And here we have some special membranes on the sides like this. These are like known as acetyl cholinesterase, which mainly break down our acetylcholine into acetate and choline. Why they are breaking down? Because you can understand, if there is lot of there is no control over here, then lot of acetylcholine will be coming and lot of again means the muscle will undergoing contraction continuously. So to stop this, there is an acetylcholinesterase which break down the acetylcholine into acetyl and choline. This acetyl again goes back to the liver and the choline can again be reabsorbed into the nerve ending. So this is how this works here. So you can check out here, acetate goes back to liver and the choline. These enzymes are called as acetylcholinesterases, and so it's having a termination action. So that's what. So clathrins are specialized proteins which help to regain the membrane of the nerve ending. So we know we are forming vesicles to get out the acetylcholine from the nerve ending. So we have some special proteins like clathrins which help to regain that membrane. Our aim is to not lose this clathrin membranes. And next we have the myasthenia gravis. It is a muscular disease in which mainly patients' blood have antibodies against the receptor, that is against the cholinergic receptors. So the immune system mainly makes the antibodies against the cholinergic and form the autoantibodies. Now this fails to bind with acetylcholine to the channel. So the potential is not developed and they lose the power to move their muscles. So now in this case what happens is, in myasthenia gravis bodies in patients, what happens is autoantibodies are formed against the cholinergic receptors. So that is nicotinic cholinergic receptors. So now what happens, acetylcholine is not able to bind to this receptors and there is no action potential or local potential going on. So this muscle is not able to contract. So there is causing a muscle weakness. So this disease is mainly cured by acetylcholinesterases blocking drug. So now the acetylcholine will accumulate in the synaptic cleft and produce the sodium influx and initiates the depolarization too. So this drug is mainly known as acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, like you have from physiostigmine, neostigmine. We'll also see in our textbook some important points regarding it. So this is very important. We have blockers of this acetylcholinesterase enzyme. So now what happens is, most of the acetylcholine is not broken down, so there is lot of concentration in acetylcholine in the synaptic cleft that is waiting for long time. So now what happens, the receptor, some of the receptors take up this acetylcholine and somewhat better contraction can be seen in these patients. So we also have some other syndrome known as Eaton-Lambert myasthenia syndrome, which is mainly caused if the calcium influx is inhibited. So if the calcium is inhibited, then the vesicles are not formed properly and the acetylcholine now cannot get out, and so this is a problem. So this person can become more active when recovered when compared with the myasthenia gravis. So even in this case also there is muscle weakness, but because here acetylcholine is not released, but some of the calcium which is present in a cell may help to produce some of little acetylcholine, and this person is better when compared with myasthenia gravis. So the choline inhibiting drug like hemicholinum, which inhibit the choline, so the acetylcholine doesn't form and creates a weakness of the muscle. This is one more case. And we have the vesicles which are mainly affected by vesicomol drug, which can't concentrate the acetylcholine in the vesicle, so it may also create the weakness in the muscle. And next we have the botulinum, which processes exotoxins which are present mainly in the honey, and this can cut the synaptobravin and also syntaxin protein, and this is mainly anaerobic bacteria. It produces proteolytic enzymes and creates a muscle nerve syndrome. The next, toxins which are used to mainly catching the fish and used in arrow's head bind to the choline channels in the motor plate of postsynaptic membrane, that is D-tubulocurine, which causes paralysis. It causes paralysis because it bind to the choline channels. Because of binding to the choline channels, now choline can't be reabsorbed and acetylcholine can't be formed and it cannot form the vesicles and get out. So next we have the succinylcholine, which produces paralysis and it produces the prolonged depolarization, so the sodium channel will not work. If there is also hyper depolarization for long time, then the sodium channels will get exhausted, they will not work, and this also causes uh, some paralysis, paralysis. Now we'll see some of the important points which are found from the textbook. So we can see here end plate potential, that is nothing but our local potential. It is a positive potential on the postsynaptic membrane that is mainly resulting from the entry of sodium via acetylcholine receptor channels. And the motor end plate, it is also called as neuromuscular junction or also called as myoneural junction. So here the entire complex of the terminal axon and the muscle membrane, that is the synaptic contact. Some authors also reserve it as postsynaptic membrane. That's what we are also discussing about that. And next, one of the important point is synaptic cleft is about 20 to 30 nanometers, and we have mainly about 3 lakh of synaptic vesicles which are normally in the terminals of single end plate. And in synaptic space are large quantities of enzymes like acetylcholinesterase, which is acetylcholine. We have seen this. And one more important point is that about 125 vesicles of acetylcholine are released from the terminals into synaptic space. For every one nerve impulse, 125 vesicles of acetylcholine are released. And we can see the linear dense bars in our nerve membrane inside in the nerve membrane, that is the voltage gated calcium channels which penetrates to these bars, that we need to remember. And one more is calcium ions are believed to mainly activate the calcium calmodium dependent protein kinase, which in turn phosphorylizes the synapsin protein and anchors the acetylcholine vesicle to the presynaptic membrane. So this is how the vesicles attach. And found one more important, like this acetylcholine forms a vesicles and gets out, mainly the process known as exocytosis, by the simple diffusion process exocytosis. And the acetylcholine opens ion channels on postsynaptic membranes mainly by acetylcholine gated ion channels. As we are saying that cholinergic, nicotinic cholinergic receptors, those are nothing but the acetylcholine gated ion channels. And remember that here only 2 acetylcholine can form the conformational change to open these gates. And yeah, it allows sodium, potassium, all those calcium, all ions. And patch clamp studies show that these channels are opened only can transmit 15,000 to 30,000 sodium ions in 1 millisecond. So that's what we are saying, heavy sodium influx. That is what the local potential now can trigger the action potential by taking it up to the threshold. So 15,000 to 30,000 sodium ions only in 1 millisecond can enter this acetylcholine ion channel. And normally the negative potential inside of muscle membrane is about minus 80 to minus 90. We know in nerve it is minus 90, but in muscle it's about minus 80 to minus 90. And the positive potential change inside the muscle fiber membrane is called the end plate potential. So in turn, the end plate potential initiates the action potential and it spreads along the membrane and causes muscle contraction. So how we can remove acetylcholine by acetylcholinesterase, and also sometimes a small amount of acetylcholine diffuses out of synaptic space and there is no longer available to act on the muscle fiber. So this is also case when acetylcholine is absent, and a few milliseconds at most normally is sufficient to excite the muscle fiber. That is acetylcholine, few milliseconds is, then the rapid removal of acetylcholine prevents the continued muscle excitation after the muscle fiber has recovered from a initial action potential. And one more thing is the area of end plate to increase in positive direction as much as 50 to 75 millivolts, creating a local potential called end plate. So remember that end plate potential is about 50 to 75 and the resting membrane potential in a muscle is 80 to minus 90, and the end plate potential, that is the local potential, is 50 to 75. This we need to remember. And remember that neuromuscular junction have a high safety factor. However, the stimulation of nerve fiber at rates greater than 100 times per second for several minutes often diminishes the number of acetylcholine vesicles so much that the impulses fail to pass into the muscle fiber. So this situation is called the fatigue of neuromuscular junction. And under normal functioning condition, the measurable fatigue of neuromuscular junction occurs rarely. So that's what we are saying, it has a high safety factor, and even then only at the most exhausting levels of muscle activity only it may undergo the fatigue process. So the molecular, this acetylcholine vesicles are 40 nanometer, and they are mainly formed by the Golgi apparatus. Those vesicles are formed from the Golgi apparatus of cell body of motor neuron in the spinal cord, and it is transported by axoplasm. And there are about 3 lakhs of these small vesicles collect in the nerve terminals of a single skeletal muscle end plate. And this acetylcholine, it's synthesized in the cytosol of the nerve, immediately transported by the membrane to the interior, where it is stored in highly concentration form. About 10,000 molecules of acetylcholine is present in each vesicle. So inside a nerve terminal we have about 3 lakhs vesicles, and in each vesicle we have 10,000 of acetylcholine. This is important point. And as we said, 125 vesicles are released for every rupture of by action potential. And about this ion, and choline is reabsorbed actively. This within a period of so this sequence, all the sequence of events takes place only within a period of 5 to 10 milliseconds. That's what we are getting, those active kind of responses. And you can see the drugs which prevent the release of acetylcholine, like botulinum toxin, which is a product of Clostridium botulinum, which prevents the acetylcholine vesicles from fusing with the presynaptic membrane, thus preventing the release of neurotransmitter into synaptic cleft. And also we have some drugs which stimulate the muscle fiber by acetylcholine like action and block the transmission, like methacholine, carbachol, nicotine. So all these have same effect on muscle fiber like acetylcholine, and act by causing localized areas of depolarization of muscle fiber at the motor end plate where the acetylcholine receptors are located. So this causes the initial muscle twitching and paralysis due to the persistent depolarization. And the reaction often persists for many minutes or several hours also. And you can see the drugs which stimulate the neuromuscular junction mainly by inactivating the acetylcholinesterase. So here we have drugs like neostigmine, physostigmine, bispropyl fluorophosphate inactivate the acetylcholinesterase. So in the synapse, so that no longer hydrolyze acetylcholine. So therefore, with each successive nerve impulse, additional acetylcholine accumulate. Yeah, that's what we have said. So this actually causes a muscle spasm. Unfortunately, it can cause death as a result of laryngeal spasm and smoothness of the person. So neostigmine and pheostigmine combine with acetylcholinesterase to inactivate the acetylcholinesterase for up to several hours, after which these drugs are displaced from acetylcholinesterase so that the esterase once again becomes active. Conversely, bispropyl fluorophosphate, which is powerful nerve gas poison, inactivates the acetylcholinesterase for weeks and makes the poison lethal. So drugs which block the transmission at neuromuscular junction, you can see curare form, can be prevent the passage of impulse from nerve ending into the muscle. For instance, you can take D-tubocuranin, which blocks the action of acetylcholine on the muscle fiber acetylcholine receptors, thus preventing the sufficient increase in permeability of muscle membrane channels to initiate an action potential. And now we'll see myasthenia gravis. So about it occurs only in 1 in every 20,000 person and causing muscle weakness, because of inability of neuromuscular junction to transmit enough signals, and antibodies are formed against it. Just now we have said about this. So yeah, this all but if it causes severe weakness in respiratory muscle, then it may lead to death also, because a person can't breathe now. And by administering neostigmine or some other anticholinesterases, which allows large normal amounts of acetylcholine to accumulate in synaptic space, people can begin to function almost normally until a new dose of neostigmine is required a few hours later. So now this is important to compare the nerve and muscle action potentials. So the resting membrane potential in nerve is -90, but in muscle is -80 to -90, and the duration is about 0.2 to 0.3, but here 1 to 5 is taking some longer time, and the velocity of conduction is 70 to 120 in the nerve, and in muscle is 3 to 5. So you can see the muscle is somewhat slow when compared with nerve is very fast. Now you can see the events in neuromuscular junction. Action potential moves down the nerve, yeah, and next opening of voltage gated calcium channel. So calcium enters into the nerve membrane, and the neurotransmitters acetylcholine move towards the active zone by exocytosis to get out, and the quantal release of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine now binds to the receptor on the postsynaptic membrane, that is the muscle membrane. So the ion sodium calcium enter the generation at the end plate potential. So the end plate potential generates the action potential at the sarcolemma. And next, drugs acting at NMJ, you can see presynaptically blockage of sodium channels for action potential tetrodotoxin, and voltage gated calcium channel blockers are conotoxins, botulinum toxin, and synaptically anticholinesterases, for example physostigmine, neostigmine, and postsynaptometry blockers acting on acetylcholine receptor, for example bungarotoxin, curate, depolarizing, and non-depolarizing blockers. So this is all about neuromuscular junction, a very fast quick review.